What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast. This is Mike Kai, your host. I hope you're doing great. You know, this past week, we had an incredible event here in Hawaii where we hosted some great ideators, influencers, business people, and entrepreneurs. And I had an opportunity to interview one of my really good friends. His name is Joe Termini. Joe is a photographer and a world famous artist, and he's an amazing guy. And his story is in my interview, and I think you're gonna love it. But he's worked with celebrities and brands that include Levis, Gucci, Prada, Nike, and even Justin Bieber. I mean, I think you're gonna enjoy this. We had an incredible conversation, and I pray that this will actually help you understand your role and your influence in the kingdom and what God has you doing where you work right now. You know, another thing is, I wanna encourage you to download the Faithful app. Exactly, Faithful. Download that app. I'll be doing devotions on that, but you can also get my sermons, you can get little sound bites. It's great. Download it, and some of my great friends are all over it. I think you're actually gonna love it. When you register, put in my last name, Kai, and register for that. I think it's gonna be amazing. Also, when you get a chance, go to mikekai.tv and go check out my website. And please pre-order my latest book called That Doesn't Just Happen, How Excellence Accelerates Everything. And I'd love for you to jump on board and get that book and tell your friends all about it. Don't forget to tell everybody to follow us, this Pound for Pound Leader podcast. So I'm looking forward to my interview with my good friend. Please listen in to my talk with Joe Termini. Great. Thank you so much for being here. Before I introduce our first guest, and we're gonna have a conversation that's basically gonna be an interview, I would wanna thank everybody for coming here. When we started the Inspire Collective, the original name was called the Influencers Network. What we wanted to do was influence those who had influence in every sphere of society. And during that time, during the pandemic, when that hit, we had the greatest opportunity to interview the top 7 mayor candidates on a podcast, every single one, the top 7. And of course, Mayor Blangiardi won, and that was such a privilege to interview him as well, along with all the other candidates. We did so many different things, but something incredible happened. Someone saw our model of premium content, membership, and great events, and publishing, and took our idea here in Hawaii and ideated it and just took it to the next level. So the Influencers Network suddenly has become the Inspire Collective. So the Inspire Collective is more than just a Hawaii brand, it's actually a global brand. So we're opening in global cities all over the world. We just signed a contract with Dallas, Texas, where we're gonna be opening an Inspire Collective chapter in Dallas, Texas. We're in conversations right now with Sydney, Australia, with Auckland, New Zealand, and some other cities that are they're on the docket. We're ready to onboard with us, and I'm really excited that something like this that started in Hawaii actually became something bigger than we thought. So I just want to say that every single one of you, during COVID or even the end of COVID, there's so many great opportunities that are out there that you just got to open your eyes and go for them. You know, I'm a kid from the Big Island, born and raised in Honoka'a, and small town, but you know what? It doesn't matter what kind of town you grew up in, you just gotta have big dreams and just keep on going for it. So thank you for being here, everybody. I'm really excited about that. The first guy that I'm gonna introduce to you tonight has become a very, very good friend. I met him in Australia about 5 years ago, I think. And I never thought I'd meet this guy because he was there for a conference and I was there for a conference. And then he says to me, he goes, "Oh, you know the Moniz family?" I'm like, "Wait, you're from New York. How do you know the Monizes? You know, Tony Moniz, Tammy Moniz, everybody knows them. How do you from New York know Tony Moniz? Come on." Little did I know that about 3 years later, he would marry their daughter and he would be here today. And I'm really excited about Joe Termini. He's become a great friend from Cash Only Studios. Would you please welcome Joe Termini, everybody? What's up, bro?
Oh, it's on. Wow, nice work, guys.
You feeling good?
This thing on. Yeah.
It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's have fun. Just like we did last night when we were on the phone and just talk. Right on.
Only he can hustle me to be here. I hate public speaking, but he's like, I'll talk to you. It'll be
Yeah, no, you can talk.
It'll be like, no one's here. I'm like,
everybody knows you can talk, bro.
I can see it.
Yeah, you got no problem with the spotlight. So Joe, I'm excited about everything that you're doing, but tell us about exactly what do you do? What is Cash Only Studios?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. In a sense, I'm a photographer by trade.
Okay.
And I help with some creative consulting with different brands all around the world. And I also, in order to get through college, I worked in the union with my grandfather. And he was a steel contractor, and I worked at John F. Kennedy Airport. And I'm an Italian from New York named Joe. My brother's name is John, and my brother's name is Sal. So we're extremely original. But I feel like it goes back to my roots. When I needed to get my union card, I had to go see a guy named Muggsy.
When you didn't get your union card?
To get my union card before I was going to college. So this is obviously maybe way longer of a story.
Okay, you saw a guy named Muggsy.
Yeah, so I saw a guy named Muggsy, and I walk in his office, and he goes, hey, what can I help you with? I go, my name's Joe. I'm Walter's grandson. I'm supposed to meet you about my union card. So he's like, all right, you got the envelope? And I'm like, yeah. And then my grandfather had some cash in there. And he's like, yeah. And he like handed me my union card stamped. He's like, hey kid, welcome to the union. So I feel like cash only's kind of come from that. Like I love the idea that like, you know.
It's the same thing as under the table.
Yeah, it's like cash is king. You know,
right.
You need something like cash only. So it's
there
like
you go.
kind of
now it's Bitcoin.
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So
anyway. But now we're credit card, paperless, touchless, no list, whatever, what you said. Anyway.
That's good. Okay, so how did you get into photography? You went from being a union worker with your union card, now all of a sudden you're a world famous photographer. Roll that back.
I grew up in two worlds. Again, I was in the union. My father was a pastor, and my grandfather was a steel contractor. And I'm an Italian kid from New York. And my parents had a 28-foot 1986 sailboat, and they wanted to bring us out to Montauk, New York. And I would go from like hanging out with these like union guys like Frankie Forearms and Muggsy and these guys, and I'd be out in the Hamptons with like rich people and like wearing white seersucker suits, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. But my mom took me on a nature photography course, and I wasn't very good at school, but I loved Jacques Cousteau, and I didn't really know how to understand. I didn't really know how to write things down, but I could, if you showed me like a picture of an animal or something like that, I had great retention of information. So I feel like I learned through pictures.
Okay, so let me roll this back. So if you don't know who Jacques Cousteau is, for some of you who are younger, he's one of the most world famous frogmen from France, and the guy was amazing. He developed the aqua lung. If you grew up and you're my age, I'm not gonna say how old I am, you're gonna have to guess. We watched the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau on Sunday afternoons. So Jacques Cousteau was an underwater explorer, and he and his son Felipe and a couple other boys, right? Yeah.
I'm really impressed. That's
yeah,
very
I
good.
know, I read the book.
Yeah.
I read the book.
The Sea King?
Yeah, the Sea King.
Yeah. Scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
That's what it means. Yeah, so keep going.
No, so I did a nature.
So your mom took you to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your mom took you to a nature course on photography. Were you like ADD, so she needed you to calm down and go take this course or something like that? Just wondering.
Everybody's picked up on that already, I think. They keep asking me if I want coffee. I'm like, do I look like I need coffee? Yeah, so she took me on a nature photography course, and again, like I loved looking at Jacques Cousteau stuff, and you know, it was cool. Like I was in the class, and my teacher Ramesh was like, you know, this is really good. And I'm like, wait, well, I'm in a classroom setting, and I have the first person ever who's telling me I'm doing good. And I really meant that. It meant a lot to me, and there was some really beautiful people in that class, and I was like, oh, this is super cool. Maybe usually they'd be like, you're gonna work at this and that. I don't even want to say something, you know, but you know, people told me, you know, in school I wasn't gonna basically be anything really that, you know, because I couldn't write, I couldn't sit still. I'm all over the place, clearly. So pictures was a way for me to kind of interact with the world, and that's kind of how it all started.
So they couldn't put you into a box. They couldn't label what you did, and here you are, and you're like, how you like me now, right? Well, you're humble, right?
No, and I think that's the cool thing about creative, and I still think that there's like lots of great photography courses that people offer, and there's lots of great things. And you know, some of my friends are here, and they run a creative agency, and you know, it's really cool. And there's so many ways that you can kind of creatively do things that technically isn't still even in a textbook. And there's lots of ways you can kind of expound on that. And I'm pumped and I'm here.
Who was your biggest mentor? I believe everybody needs a mentor. You need a coach. When you look at Michael Jordan, Tim Grosvenor was his coach, and even though he was the best basketball player of all time, still to this day, he had a coach. Who was your coach?
You know, I had a lot of people that looked after me. There was a guy named maybe Larry McCrudden. I never wanted to be a photo assistant because I didn't necessarily want to be in that world, but I worked in production. So that kind of gave me my first kind of view into the fashion world. Okay. And I would say he was probably my mentor or coach.
So you were doing digital, or were you doing like film, roll film?
No, we were in the dark room.
You were in the dark room?
No digital.
I did
like
that.
Now I'm old.
I did dark room stuff when I was in high school, yeah. Yearbook class. Yeah. I was, the editor of the yearbook. Why are you guys laughing? I was. Honokaa High School class of, never mind. In the dark room. I did that, bro, with all that solution. Yeah. Anyway.
It's amazing to do the darkroom stuff, but yeah, I didn't start with digital. I started with, I think cameras were really good, and it was like 7 megapixels. Now look, Zach, right? Where are we now? It's like,
wow. Okay, so now you become this great photographer, or you're on the way up. What was your big break in your eyes? This was my big break.
There was a guy running for state legislation, Frank Gargano, and he was doing a breast cancer walk. And paid me $150 to take pictures for the newspaper. And I was like, what? Are you gonna pay me $150 and I gotta take pictures? I was psyched. No, and for real, I thought that was the first time, because I'd work 3-4 days for like at Abercrombie and Fitch. I shouldn't have said that, maybe that part, at the mall.
It's okay.
Anyway.
Would they give you clothes?
Yeah, they were giving me clothes. I was making like $7 an hour. So I was like, $150, this is sick. But yeah, I think that was kind of the way where I was like, I can maybe get paid to do this stuff. Yeah.
And that's when you saw you had talent. Maybe you had a gift for this.
Yeah, again, I just once I picked up the camera, I basically didn't put it down, and it was super fun. I failed at art school, though. I went for an associate's degree. I went to school for 6 years. I still don't have an associate's degree. So
it's okay.
School was not my thing. And again, I'm not mad at school. I think my brother's wife she's an amazing person at school, and she's a doctor. And I want to be careful, because some creators I think are down on education in school. Right. Like, I wanted to learn.
Okay.
I didn't learn in the context of the way most people would learn. And pictures were basically my way of understanding the universe. So that's kind of where it all went for me.
Okay, so then you start doing Adidas, right? You start shooting like Naomi Campbell. Is that right?
I never photographed Naomi Campbell, but my first job was as a production assistant. It was 72 pages for W Magazine, and they were photographing Naomi Campbell. Wow. And it was really funny, because I showed up as a PA, and there was like all these people running around. And again, it was like, I worked in the union, right? So they're like, all right, we're gonna have to it's gonna be hard work. We're gonna have to set up some tents and get espresso and make sure the coolers are cold. I'm like, yo, I used to work at John F. Kennedy Airport, digging holes all day. I'm like, I gotta set up tents and get espresso, and you're gonna pay me $250. I'm psyched. You know what I mean? And there's pretty girls everywhere. So I was super, I didn't have to be next to Frankie Forearms all day. So
Frankie Forearms.
Yeah, which again,
supermodels versus Frankie Forearms.
Yeah, and I love being in the union as well. I still, there's parts of my life that miss that part of it, but anyway. Right.
Thanks for listening to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast. Have you ever wondered how someone got so successful, how they got where they were? Maybe it is great innovators, or entrepreneurs, or entertainers, or influencers of the time, like Walt Disney, or Horst Schultz, or even Michael Jordan. Most likely you've heard one of these names, maybe all of them, and you've said to yourself, how did they get where they are? The truth is, that doesn't just happen. Mike Kai, co-founder of the Inspired Collective and author of The Pound for Pound Principle and Plateaus, and lead pastor of Inspire Church, knows this truth all too well. He went from a church of 40 people meeting in a small elementary cafeteria to a congregation of over 4,000 people meeting in 3 locations on Oahu, 1 in the Philippines, and also a thriving online location. A true underdog story. He's taken principles from life experience, mentors he's gained along the way, and he wrote his new book, That Doesn't Just Happen: How Excellence Accelerates Everything. If this is something that you're interested in, I want to encourage you to get this book. You can pre-order it today simply by texting the word pre-order to 66866. Again, that's the word pre-order to 66866. We'll get your name and your email, and within seconds, we'll send you an email with all the information you need to pre-order this book today. Now, let's go back to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast.
Okay, so when I met you, you were probably at the beginning of a different trajectory than from what I know of. That trajectory went from faithful with the small things, $150 job, right? And all of a sudden you're making a lot of money and you're shooting some very famous people. And you've got carte blanche into their life. They trust you now. You're invited into their world. And for a lot of people here, the lesson is your reputation is worth more than silver or gold. Your reputation is critical. In fact, your reputation is your brand. It's what people say about you. That's your brand, is what people say about you. So now here you are, people saying good things about you, and there's this young kid who can sing, and his name is Justin Bieber, and you start doing a documentary with him. Talk about that.
Yeah, I love Justin. He's a dear friend, and we have an interesting relationship. He's like, I'm gonna work on an album. Yeah, didn't work on an album for a long time. He's like, why don't you come to LA and take some pictures? And I was like, oh yeah, cool. You know, and I think any relationship or any consistent job that I've had has always been out of like a relationship, and people just want really for you to show up, right? They want you to show up, do what you say, and hopefully you do a better job than what's expected. And I think that's the math on it. I think sometimes people ask me like, oh, how did you do this or how did you do that? Like, just show up, do a really good job, do more than expected, and, you know, don't say I'm gonna do this and then, you know, come in this way. And I still have to work on parts of my life where, you know, I don't always do everything that I do on time, but I think that's super important. And, you know, for him, I showed up. Like it was, you know, a lot of people could do that job, you know? I'm good at what I do, but I think, you know, a lot of people could do that.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, I showed up and, you know, it kind of snowballed into something much bigger.
Yeah, you said you showed up, you worked harder than was expected. So that's some secret sauce stuff right there. Because sometimes some people think I just show up and it's gonna automatically maybe happen, maybe it might work out for me, but you show up, you do more than what's expected, you come on time and you do your job, and then all of a sudden doors start opening up for you. Out of all of that time, I don't know if how deep you want to talk about him, but to see his transformation and how good, from what we can tell from the outside, and you know on the inside, because he was just here about a couple of months ago hanging out with you guys, I think it's pretty awesome that you get to be in a young man's life who hit mega stardom. I mean, the closest thing to us is Bruno Mars. He's from here.
He's the man.
He is the man.
How's his new song? Love it.
I know, right? He's amazing. But, you know, that's our version. And then to be into that circle and welcomed into that world. But also, you're no stranger to that world, because when you look at it, the whole Moniz family, it just represents so much to Hawaii, so much aloha, so much surf industry, all of that. And you're all in all these circles. Do you ever stop and wonder, how did I get here?
All the time. I'm sitting here doing it right now.
Me too, bro. I'm the same way. Yeah.
You know, just to jump on that for a second, I think that's the magic of it. I think when you start to expect, I think that's where things get tricky. I think even when you're talking about, you know, doing the extra hours, like, it's such a cliche to like love what you do. But if you don't love it, you're not gonna go further. Right. You're not gonna do more, you know? And I think it's important to try to find out, even if what you're doing right now isn't exactly what you wanna do, as long as you got a goal, if it's funding where you're trying to go. Like again, I did production for a long time. I was driving trucks, loading coolers. I was working in the union in the snow. But I knew I was doing that because I wanted to be here. And it's because I had this like kind of like, you know, this joy set before me kind of thing. But, you know, I was excited about what was to come. And, you know, if you don't lose sight of that, you can kind of hustle through the hard times, you know? Yeah. Anyway.
I love it. So tell us about life now. What did you see in Hawaii when you moved here, and then through the whole lockdowns that's gone on in the last 14 months, and then we're out of it pretty much, so praise God. What does that look like for you now? Well, how good was that for you?
You know, it's crazy. You know, I was probably on a plane every week, if not every other week, leaving this island, going to do other stuff. And it was amazing. And finding the balance of opportunity is its own kind of tricky thing. There's two problems, right? There's one, not working, and the other problem is probably a lot of people in this room face is like it's working too much. And there's like it's like a very thin line in figuring out how to be around and like not miss out on things. Yeah. And I think I'm still trying to navigate that. But COVID has been, in a sense, and I want to be cautious because I know it's been really hard on a lot of people and a lot of businesses and a lot of families, but for me personally, it's been great because it's been grounding, For my marriage, we have a kid, we got a dog who's nuts, we have a little house, and it's been a really beautiful thing. And then you also get to, I think, there's so much happening here. There's so many cool people here. There's so much opportunity here. I feel like this place is wide open for like all kinds of stuff. I'm from New York, and obviously that's maybe supposed to be the epicenter of like everything going on. But I actually feel like, this place is wide open. I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. I think there's a lot of cool people here, going back to, some of my guys over here and obviously you and everybody in this room. There's just tons of really cool things going on. And it's a special place. It's cool to be able to work in paradise too. It's like, I was working, I was freezing. I was in a 400 square foot apartment overlooking East River, and that was a dream, you know what I mean? I surf and work. It's like, this place is amazing, and I think.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good, bro.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your baby and Kelia a little bit.
I married Kelia. So now I was Joe from New York. I was the guy, Now I'm Kelia's husband here, which is, I'm working it out. You know what I mean? It's just like, she's cool. She's really cute. She's this big, and she's stronger than I am. My boxing coach the other day told me, if your son has your wife's talent and your height, he's going to be unbelievable. And I go, her talent? Anyway, it's really bad. I love Kelia, and it's an amazing thing. And we were flying all around the world and going back and forth, and we just figured that this is a place we can call home and jump from. And obviously, her family's so incredible, and I didn't know what I was walking into. This is completely an unplanned. I like the girl. I had no idea who she was connected to. And I think that, that can be set up with a lot of things. Like, don't go after like maybe the opportunity of something. Like, just look at what's in front of you. Like, I like that. And I got blessed with all this extra stuff. And, I love about here how a family matters so much that I then become part of that.
I've watched that.
I've never expected, people in New York always got an angle. Like, what do you do? Oh, yeah, okay, that guy can work. But people automatically come over and they're kind to me and they accept me and they love me because of somebody else's hard work and dedication and years of just being here and loving people. So I've never experienced, people call it aloha. I've never experienced, you don't experience that in New York. Yeah. You get the finger most of the time. You get a shaka here, you get something different there, you know what I mean?
Bada boom.
Anyway,
break your legs.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, what's baffling to me is like everything was coned off today, right? And I'm going, no one's honking or running these cones over. Like, everybody listens to this. Like, if I was in New York, I'm like, bop, 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 right across, I was just saying that 5 minutes ago, and no one honks here. Like, with the first couple weeks here, I'm like, people like letting people in. I'm like, you have an opportunity here. Just take the extra 3 feet. My wife's like, bro, you gotta chill.
Bro, we got the every other rule, every other, and then shaka back. Well, at least I made that rule.
Again, it would just be a lot of different, you'd be losing the read between the lines. Anyway.
I got a couple minutes with you. I was thinking, what's God's role in your life in all this? Come up with parents are pastors. Growing up in New York, you got maybe a little bit of PK, pastor's kid syndrome, expectations, but you find your niche. This is your craft. You're really amazing at it. You're making a killer living at it. Well, you're making a great living at it. Your life looks really great. Where's God? How does God play this in your life?
Everything, You want to kind of, everything. There's no way around it. Being a pastor's kid is amazing because you learn everything that you can't do, and then you can never enjoy the other stuff that your buddies never heard about that you couldn't do. So I was like, I never got to enjoy doing all the stuff that everybody was like going out and doing all this stuff, and I was like, I can't have fun. My parents told me this is bad, from day one. So I was like, But, you know, God's played a major role in my life. Again, you know, I mean, a wise man's steps are ordered by the Lord. And I don't think I'm that wise, but I try to keep him front and center in my life. And I try to keep the main thing. And I think, you know, our job is to be known by our love, right? And over everything else, you know? So I think it just keeps me grounded. Like when I feel like being crazy or having people read between the lines or letting people in on traffic, I'm like, this is my job, you know? And I just think in the creative space, it's really cool because, you know, it just like keeps your focus, you know? Is it about this or is it about that? You know?
So I wanted to ask you that. How do you stay creative? Because we got a lot of creative people in this room. We got artists, we got photographers, we got designers. What's your advice to them how to stay creative for anybody? Like I got to stay creative to write a sermon.
I think balance, and again, that sounds crazy, but I think when you stare at like the same thing and when you're trying to push a rock up a hill, you're trying to push something, I actually think there's something to just walking away from it and just like kind of turning your back on it and doing something different or just changing. I think that's been the biggest help for me is just stopping. I think sometimes like, you know, we can, as creatives, like, or as hard workers, as people, we can just push so hard to be like, I have to do this. But again, what happens? The joy leaves that, the passion leaves that, and now you're just like, and everything about your position and everything changes because now it's like a project that needs to be done. Yeah. So if you can try your best to get away from the project side of things and just kind of like, you know, keep it a joy and keep it something that you love, and not have it expected, you know? And COVID's, again, been a good thing because everything that we expected has gone away. Right. So now we're back to like regrowing everything. All of us, every one of our businesses, every one of our lives has been completely affected by this thing. So now we have to regroup and kind of figure out like what's new. And I think that that's an amazing opportunity though, because I think where there's like kind of withdrawing or there's a huge change, there's also tons of opportunity for new creative ways to do things. I mean, look at this. Yeah.
Okay, you talked about what one of the best things that ever happened during COVID, during this time. You had baby, you got a dog, got a house. Awesome. I saw all that happen in 12 months. What are you looking forward to?
To be with my baby in my house with my dog. And I mean that, you know, genuinely. I think, again, this place is, and I mean that with Hawaii, it's just changed me. My mentality's been just completely shifted. Like, you know, I used to joke around about people don't really want to work here, you know, because everybody's like, you know, everybody's cruising. But like, nah, actually, people just want to be with each other and love each other and be around each other and share dinner together. And, you know, you don't find that in a lot of places in the world. This place is so special, and I'm so lucky to be here. And I'm so lucky to be around people whose sole focus is literally to be around community and family and so on to the next generation. It's just the raddest thing in the whole world. Like, that's the goal. The goal isn't work. Like for me, the goal is work, or the goal was like this, or like cash only, you know, like, but it's not the goal here. The goal, obviously, that funds being able to be home, it funds having a house, but it's not the goal. And I'm constantly having to get, you know, my brain rewired from a cultural perspective here that like, things are about people and family first. And it's the coolest thing to be around. And I'm so glad if I'm gonna get inundated with something, instead of chasing something else, I'm chasing being home with my family is the best.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. How can they follow you? How can they find your stuff? Where do they need to go?
You know,
what's your Instagram?
Instagram. People ask for cards still, and I don't. I'm like, oh, I don't have a card. I'm like, I barely remember my phone number. I think Instagram, social media, you know, and like
at Joe Termini.
Yeah, Joe Termini is my Instagram, and like, you know, I'm terrible at self-promotion stuff. It's like, cash only studios, cash only.
Cash only, sorry. Yeah. Under the table, right on.
I take checks, just kidding.
Crypto, all right. Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much.
Had a great time with you. What a great conversation. Can we thank Joe Termini, everybody? Oh, wasn't that a great talk? I mean, great interview. I love his energy. I love having that conversation with Joe. He's actually become a very good friend of mine, and they live here in Honolulu, Hawaii. What a world famous guy and down to earth at the same time. Hey, if you never got an opportunity to do this, I really want you to join the Inspire Collective, or at least get the magazine. This free quarterly magazine is filled with incredible stories of people in the industries like you are, who are doing great things. I think you're absolutely gonna love it. Make sure that you get it. Go for the free offer, go to freeinspireoffer.com and get your free year supply magazine. Comes in 4 times a year about different people who are making a difference in the kingdom, in the sphere of influence, where you work and where you live. Make sure you go ahead and get that. This is free. Everybody loves free stuff, right? So thank you. Thank you for joining us in the Inspire Collective. Stay tuned for our next episode where I will interview the great Bob Harrison, Dr. Increase. It's going to be incredible. Until then, God bless you and aloha.
Thanks for listening to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast. Mike Kai is so excited to announce his partnership with the Faithful app. That's right, Faithful app lets you stream original classes, prayers, highlights, ad-free sermons, and so much more from the world's foremost Christian leaders and speakers. You'll hear from leaders like Pastor Mike and Lisa Kai, John and Lisa Bevere, Rich Wilkerson Jr., and so much more. The Faithful app can be an extraordinary catalyst for your spiritual growth and your personal development. There's even daily trackers and selection filters to help keep you a little bit more accountable to your faith goals and ensure that you're not only maintaining, but growing your relationship with God. Today, you can get this app today by simply texting the word faithful to 66866. Again, that's the word faithful to 66866. We'll get your name and your email, and within seconds, you'll get an email from us with instructions and information on how you can download the app today. We hope you enjoy.